8th year of marriage to Jack. He lied to me about going out of town on business. In reality, he was busy sleeping with his first love, White Moon, and ended up in the hospital for overplaying his hand. Late at night, I was called over by an emergency call from the emergency department. I took a look at the girl's lower body, some miserable, arranged for surgery immediately. Seeing that I was the one performing the surgery, he gave me a cold, threatening look. Amy, if you can't fix her, I will end your career today. After the surgery, he took care of Lily himself, just to get her out of the hospital. But when he got home, he pointed at me and cursed angrily, saying that I deliberately gave Lily ugly surgical stitches. Wanted me to apologize to Lily. I braced myself and refused, but Jack blackmailed me, apologize or get a divorce. At one time I did care about this marriage. But now I don't want it. What are you guys playing like this? Why should I apologize? I questioned him in a cold voice. My husband of 8 years of marriage played with the white moonlight until he went to the hospital, disgracing my face and making me a joke in my circle. His face changed slightly and he pushed me violently, coldly saying, Amy, don't be unreasonable, okay? The only thing left in Jack's eyes was disappointment. Pushing me directly to the sharp corner of the closet, my forehead broke. The pain made me a little speechless. I wiped my hand was stained with blood. But Jack acted as if he didn't see it, still accusing me. Xiao Luo is so simple, your thoughts are nasty and dirty. He was all about defending other women. My heart gradually sank. It's really humiliating for you to do this. I said word for word. The anger inside was like a small beast, rampant. Jack however said, so what if it's true? It's just for fun, and I promised someone to take care of Ro. Once upon a time, he said the same thing, making me sympathize with Lily one way or the other, but now it was different. A dull ache welled up in my heart. Is this how he takes care of people? Straight to bed? I do not want to apologize, stalemate. Jack went completely cold. You let the scars given to Ro get stitched up ugly, to get back at me. When did you become such a calculating person? Divorce it is then. There was a tiredness in the middle of my voice. This marriage, I'm tired. No, I don't agree, Amy. I won't let you go. You now must go apologize to Lily. I agreed, but he wouldn't let me go. He clasped his hands on my shoulders. The man's strength was so heavy that it squeezed and hurt. I hadn't eaten any water or rice during the surgery. My lips were so dry they could peel, and my body was like cotton with no strength. And there was still blood on my forehead now. I haven't eaten, and the forehead wound needs treatment. None of that matters. Lily is still waiting for an apology from you. He shook me a little harder, but pushed me right back down to sit in the foyer. I'd been on a 12-H streak before operating on Lily. I ended up being called back to the emergency department just as I arrived home from work. Medical ethics made me unable to bear the thought of a blossoming girl perishing, and I braced myself to perform the entire surgery. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to push you. Seeing me fall to the ground, Jack reached out his hand ready to help me up. Suddenly, the iPhone in his pants pocket vibrated, and his outstretched hand immediately retracted. Picking up the iPhone, he replied seriously. Without guessing, I could think it was that first love of his, the white moonlight, and today's surgery patient, Lily. I braced myself against my powerless body and struggled to stand up. But my eyes were firmly fixed on his bare white fingers, the ring finger position, empty. I couldn't help but ask, where's your wedding ring? His gaze finally turned to me. When I was making congee for you earlier, I was afraid of dropping it in the pot, so I took it off. He explained towards me, and then touched his ring finger somewhat unnaturally. I saw that a blue thermos box was indeed placed on the tabletop and nodded, I see. In the past, when Jack and I were passionately in love, he had been heartbroken that I was a doctor. Always warming some porridge in a pot for me. But since Lily came back, he never cooked me congee. I walked towards the dining table, but Jack stopped me once again. Ro kept crying inside the hospital, saying that your stitches were ugly. Can you go apologize to her? Think of it as for me. Lily's parents had both passed away, and Jack had promised Sue's father and mother to take good care of her. When I think about it, if Jack hadn't helped my parents back then, I wouldn't be here today. Anyway, he doesn't matter anymore, so it's just a matter of apologizing. I promise. After saying that, I wanted to open the thermos box and drink a bowl of congee, but Jack grabbed it. The action was even a bit hasty. "This is for Ro to cook, yours is in the pot." The iPhone vibrated again. Jack's hands were busy, but he accidentally tapped on the voice. Lily's voice was delicate. "Brother Shoju, when will the 3 fresh congee you cooked for people be delivered? People's stomachs will be starving later." The corners of the man's mouth immediately rose, after replying to the message. Speaking quickly to me, he said, "I'll go to the hospital to check on Xiao Luo first, get some rest yourself." I nodded, not commenting. Going to the kitchen and lifting the lid of the pot to take a look, the congee had long since cooled down. There was nothing to eat. I picked up my iPhone and was about to order takeout when I realized Lily had sent me a picture. She said, "Sister Amy, this ring seems to be something Brother Shoju accidentally left at my place. I'll send it to you some other day." I lowered my eyes and remained silent for a long time. That wedding ring had been on Jack's hand for 8 years. It had never been taken off, and if it hadn't taken a tremendous amount of effort, how could it have been taken off so easily? After eating the takeout, my stomach felt much better. I scrolled inside Facebook, looking for a former law school classmate. "Hi, I'm looking for advice on a divorce." I sent over a large paragraph about my situation and sincerely pleaded with this classmate to help me. The other person quickly agreed and set up a time and place. But a red dot appeared in the column of my circle of friends, reminding me. I clicked along, only to see Lily's circle. "Thank you for the seafood congee sent by her boyfriend." The photo didn't show Jack's face, but I recognized him immediately. Underneath that circle of friends was a clear line of blessings. "Yo, the little couple can be recognized, so sweet. Blessing 99, to last forever." Lily even replied one by one under the comment section, saying that the seafood congee was made by her boyfriend who specially boiled it for 3 hours and did it himself. Everyone was praising Jack for being a city job boyfriend. Soon, Jack's circle of friends also came out of nowhere. A letter to the Facebook list. "Sorry fellow listers, given my little girlfriend's love of jealousy. So list ladies, I'm going to have to delete you." A message from Jack quickly popped up inside my iPhone Facebook. "Already have a girlfriend, delete each other, thanks." I slowly typed out a line, waiting to negotiate a divorce. Before I could finish typing, it was prompted by "the system has been deleted." My heart, as if a stall of stagnant water, no more ripples. When I finished packing, dragging the black suitcase to the door, I didn't expect to bump into Jack, who was returning home. He glanced at my forehead with white gauze. The closing of the door became violent and tyrannical, flinging the door hard to the outside. He looked at me with icy eyes, smiley face. "Just because Ro is having too much fun with his boyfriend, you think I'm the one who cheated on her, Amy? I'm telling you, I didn't do anything wrong to you." He said it in a firm voice, but what I saw was the truth. The odds are Jack doesn't know that he posts to his friends and forgets to block me many times. I was going on a business trip. I interrupted coldly. "You're acting like a jealous woman right now. How old are you to be playing the running away from home thing? Shame on you." I was just about to tell him that I was 30, and that it had been 8 years since I married him at 22. But he scoffed. "I hate women who don't know what they're doing and think they know it. Amy, you know my temperament." When I walked into the room, he even pushed me out of the room. "Aren't you going on a business trip? Get lost." In the 8 years of our marriage, Jack and I have had countless arguments, and every time, I have been the one to put my face down and humbly beg for peace. Since he helped my father through a difficult time, he has become a god in my heart. There were even many times when he kicked me out of the house. I always licked my face and humbled myself and rolled back, waiting at the door, waiting for him to open the door for me. Only this time, I really didn't care. Without looking back, I took a cab, aiming for the direction of the airport. Jack didn't wait until I knocked on the door and begged for peace, and I was already at the airport. Before boarding the plane, Jack called a dozen times. Lest I don't answer in general. I just had to press the answer button. Through the iPhone screen, I could also feel Jack's face was extremely unpleasant. His tone was grumpy, with questioning. "Why didn't you answer the many calls I made to you?" I pulled a casual excuse. "Sorry, it was on mute and I didn't notice. I specifically went to ask about scar repair, and the hospital said that only you can do this repair surgery in the entire city." Turns out, he was calling about Lily after all. Amy, I'm ordering you to come back now, immediately, and schedule the surgery for Ro right away. There's not a moment to wait about her. Before I could say anything, Lily's petite voice came over. Sister Amy, thank you for letting Brother Shoju take care of me, or else I wouldn't know what to do after such a big incident. Under the sky, only Brother Shoju doesn't mind that I'm an idiot, right? So shameful. I felt a complete ignition of anger somewhere in my body and blurted out, "Get lost, Lily, is it disgusting for you to talk like that?" The next second, Jack's furious voice rang out, "Amy, don't you dare." "I don't dare to do anything." I hung up the phone backhandedly. This man does not want, there is no need to spoil him. But half an hour later, Jack, but directly rushed to the airport lounge, grabbed me sitting on the chair. Not without saying gave me a slap. "Amy, who gave you the guts to insult Xiao Luo like this?" Men's weather is naturally big. The slap almost made my eyes bleed. Not only did my face hurt, but I also felt as if the wound on my forehead was cracking a little worse. Covering half of my face with my hand, I stared straight at Jack. "She's nothing but an orphan girl, I'm your wife." Joke. Jack looked at me with disgust and coldly dropped a sentence. "What qualifications do you have to compare with Xiao Luo?" In my heart, you don't even have the qualifications to compare with her. "Come back with me." He embedded his large hands in my hair and nearly dragged me forward. I had a death grip on the steel chair and suitcase. In a rage, Jack kicked my suitcase straight through. My ears distinctly heard a crack of porcelain as Jack froze. I crouched down, tears falling down my face. It was a pair of crooked porcelain jars. It was the porcelain jars we made together on our first date. He had taught me by hand to pinch out the shape of a tile jar, and even the coloring was traced out by the two of us together. Finally on the colored glaze, lasted 6 months, only to complete such a pair of porcelain canisters. That is my best memory with him. It is also one of my thoughts. But now, this last trace of reluctance is also destroyed. I use my hands to pick up piece by piece, want to put together that porcelain jar, but unsuccessful. Jack impatiently grabbed my sleeve. "Don't pick up, a broken porcelain can only." The car is very fast, representing Jack's urgent mood. Soon return to the hospital. It turns out that nowadays, he only has Lily in his eyes. Jack and I met in college, when my dad was having trouble turning over his business and facing bankruptcy. It was Jack who appeared like a god and saved me and my family. He courted me, and I said yes with little effort. I majored in general medicine, and Jack was a keen fighter at the time, always with cuts and bruises on his body. Some of them were even on his face, so I took a course in scar revision and got a perfect score for him. After graduation, I went into the hospital, and scar revision became a plus point for me. At that point, he told me, "Having Amy is like having the whole world, Amy, you can't abandon me." But after only 8 short years of marriage, everything changed. He forgot that I took this course for him, and forced me to do prosthetics on his white moon. The two of them played until they went to the hospital, or they played too much to cause it. There couldn't be a more suffocating original mate under the sun than me. After the repair surgery, my face is as white as gold paper and my figure is shaky. Lily pretentiously said, "Oops, I still have to get up and thank Amy for operating on me." Brother Shoju, don't you think so? That's what she should do. Lily, however, favors a shy look and pulls me along as she slips that familiar wedding ring to me. The smile was sweet, but her tone was vicious. When I said I didn't like looking at Brother Shoju wearing a wedding ring, he didn't think twice about taking it off and throwing it in the trash. She moved closer to me. "Sister Amy, inside love, it's the one who isn't loved, that's the mistress." I didn't say anything, but the pain in my heart swept through my entire body. Directly through the 2 rings into the trash. When I saw Jack again, he was peeling an apple for Lily. I remembered that I had a stomachache earlier and also pestered him to peel an apple for me. But at that time, he was full of disgust and shoved the whole apple at me, his tone full of resentment. "How old are you? Apple skin is nutritious, you just nibble it." I thought it was because he didn't care to do such a thing, but it turned out, it was because he didn't want to do such a thing for me. When the plate of apple chunks was at the bottom, I was about to knock on the door and go in. Instead, I saw Lily holding a piece of apple in her mouth and feeding it directly mouth to Jack. "Brother Shoju, you're so good, I can't even peel an apple. This last piece of apple is a reward for you." Jack directly doted on it and opened his mouth to receive it. The two even kissed as if no one else was around. Until Lily blushed red and leaned against the man. Originally thought that I would be heartbroken when I saw this scene, but in fact, I was only left numb. This marriage is nothing but a farce. I just want it to be over. Lily saw me standing in the doorway, panicked, and got off Jack, her tone nervous. "Sister Amy, what brings you here?" Seeing my gaze sink, she hurriedly explained in a petulant voice, "Just now it was me who was too excited. Sister Amy, you mustn't misunderstand, I really don't have anything with Brother Shoju." Lily's face changed from shyness to shock, covering her face as she retreated to the hospital bed. Jack, however, went straight forward and wrapped his arms around the person back in a protective position. He pressed Lily's head into his arms with his hands. "There's nothing to explain. I just spoil you like a sister." Turning his head, he directs his gaze at me with obvious disdain. "What are you doing here?" I pull a blank piece of paper out of my bag and tell Jack it's an acknowledgement that the hospital is asking the family to sign. It involved Lily, who was on the tip of his heart, plus he was too busy calming the frightened white moonlight in his arms. He signed it without even thinking about it. I got that piece of paper without incident. I then made a gesture that took everyone in the room by surprise. I bowed towards Jack, my tone solemn. "Mr. Gu, thank you for helping my family through the difficult times back then, and I don't owe you anything for these 8 years." I turned to leave, but Jack's panicked voice came from behind me. "Amy, what do you mean by that?" His pupils instantly quake as he snatches the agreement out of my hand. Voice incredulous, "Divorce papers?" This is the first time he's left Lily behind and run out the door to find me and talk to me. "What do you mean, you really want to divorce me?" Jack took the rare initiative to grab my hand. "Xiao Luo, he is fatherless and motherless. I have to take good care of her. You can't be jealous with her." "Stop it, the divorce agreement, I know you are using it to bluff me. Let's be good, when Xiao Luo is discharged from the hospital, we'll have a child." "A child?" I used to want to tie Jack down with a child, but he said he couldn't take care of Lily with a child and told me not to be delusional. I don't want a child with him now. But it's just that he wants it. None of that matters anymore. "Jack, you've signed the papers, and we're getting a divorce right now." I looked Jack in the eye and said with intent, "You'll soon be able to marry someone you care about." Jack's face changed a bit, panic was visible in his eyes, and he was about to say something. Instead, his iPhone sent another message, "Brother Shoju, where have you been? Luo is scared to be alone." He anxiously dropped a sentence, "I'll go check on Luo first," and then quickly left. My expression was calm as I turned around and walked away. I said silently in my heart, "Jack, this time I will never look back." Half a month later, I was in a coffee shop, discussing my divorce with my lawyer. Tom took out his iPhone and showed me a video. In the video, Jack should be drunk. Someone asked him, "You now have one at home and another such a sweet little girlfriend outside, how to choose?" Jack didn't even think about it, of course he chose Lily. Some people laughed and joked that he was not afraid that the one at home would be jealous and divorce you. Jack, however, looked unconcerned and said, "She won't, Amy values my marriage the most. How many times has she been kicked out of the house like a dog? But in the end, she still licked her face and came back." The crowd was uproarious, ridiculing him for his clever tactics, how he could play inside and outside, and still be able to get along with each other. I realized that Tom was not only my divorce lawyer, but also our common classmate. Tom asked me what my future plans were. I smiled frankly, "Live a good life." Tom's face hung a trace of surprise. "You really give up, Jack?" "What's not to give up? It's impossible to warm up a broken heart. Nowadays, I only have hatred for Jack. When I was in college, Jack and I were notorious for being in love. We have been in love for many years, how can we give it up?" Even Tom thought I was just throwing a tantrum with the divorce papers. "Please help me with the process, I'd like to go faster." Tom pushed the information to the side and took out a thermos from the side. "I heard you have a weak stomach, so I prepared warm congee for you." My eyelashes fluttered lightly. I remembered the time I was hospitalized with a stomach ache, but Lily just had her period and soiled her pants, and Jack just left me at the hospital. Jack just left me at the hospital and turned around to take care of his first love, the white moon of his heart. Strangers like Tom knew I had a stomach bug. Jack and I were married for 8 years, and he forced me to operate on a stomach bug. Tom again pretended not to ask, "You are divorced, can you consider me?" He said it seriously, but I turned him down without hesitation. He asked me why. Eyes on the hot porridge in the thermos, I thought for a moment and said, "Because I don't like porridge." Tom nodded and accelerated the divorce process. 1 month later. Jack panicked for a moment when he received the notice of the appointment sent by Tom. He didn't seem to want me to actually divorce him. It wasn't a joke, much less a temper tantrum. On that day, I was leading a group of interns in the hospital to check on the rooms, and I just happened to check on Lily's ward. Jack met me face to face and directly grabbed my hand, his tone frantic. "Amy, are you really going to divorce me?" His voice was tense, like when he confessed, terrified. "Jack, you've signed the divorce papers and you still think I'm joking? How could I? Haven't you always loved me? How could you ever leave me?" His pitch rose steeply. His voice was dry and his eyes were wide. The fingers were still tightly imprisoning my wrist. I ate the pain and my pretty eyebrows wrinkled, so the interns I brought with me had eyes. "What are you doing? What are you doing to our director Wink?" The male intern doctor was tall and quickly forced Jack to let go. After genuinely deciding to leave him, he realized that he wasn't much better. The moment before he stepped out of the hospital room, Jack's sure voice still came from behind him. "Amy, I'll wait for you to come back. If you figure it out one day, feel free to send me Facebook." I only felt the irony. No, you won't get that chance in this lifetime. After all, Facebook is still something you deleted yourself. Lily asked me to meet her at a pub. I thought better of it and went, and when we met, she was pouring a bottle of spirits into her mouth. I opened my mouth and advised her, "Lily, don't drink, you've just had surgery, you're not fit to drink." Although the person in front of me was the one who started the destruction of my marriage. But medical ethics prompted me to say this. Lily changed her good behavior in front of Jack and spoke evilly to me, "Amy, are you happy now? Brother shows you he doesn't come to the hospital to take care of me anymore, and he's soulful every day." The corners of her eyes glistened with tears. "You must be very proud of yourself now, right?" I truthfully told her that Jack and I have long since come to the end of our divorce. We are currently going through the divorce process. "Amy, if it wasn't for you back then, I would have married him." Lily poured herself another glass of wine quickly. Staring sarcastically at my face, "He's been married to you for 8 years, except for those first few years. I'm afraid he hasn't touched you since then, right?" The mouth of my heart seemed to be stung. Lily took out a recording. Inside the two breathing lingering, moaning sound endless. Lily delicate soft asked Jack, why every day to pester her want. Jack, however, said, "That old woman is no match for you, the only person I love the most is Xiao Luo." The other side seems to want to see the look of heartache on my face. But my expression was too steady. Lily impatiently tried to slap me. "This slap is to warn you, brother showed you is mine, be sensible and you'll get out of here." Her hand was held by a big hand. Jack had grabbed her. What followed was her panicked explanation. "It's not like that, brother shows you. It's Sister Amy who asked me to come, and she forced me to drink. Brother shows you, you know, I just had surgery, I can't drink at all, but she." Lily wipes her tears as she tries to lean into Jack, but the man dodges her. I looked at Lily planted but didn't say anything. "That's enough," Jack said coldly. "Lily, you need to stop, I just saw it all." Jack's words caused the smug look on Lily's face to instantly crack. Jack looked guilty. "I'm sorry, Amy, I didn't know she would come to you." Instead, I turned around and walked away. Jack had been forced, by the divorce process, to come to me in person. I was annoyed beyond belief. Solely signing the letter of intent to study abroad arranged by the hospital, "Dean, I've agreed to further my education." As early as last year, this application had reached me. Only at that time I was preoccupied with the fact that Jack had no one to take care of him. Plus I couldn't bear to leave Jack, and put off all kinds of hospital benefits. Now it's just the right excuse to avoid Jack's pestering. "Great, Dr. Wen, with your medical skills today you're still willing to go abroad for further study. When you come back in a year, you'll definitely become the top medical talent in the country." The dean shook my hand happily and instructed me to prepare for going abroad as early as possible. I'm not a doddering flower in a greenhouse. In the 8 years I've been married to Jack, I've spent all my own money. Taking out my savings, I counted about $300,000. That was enough. Tom called to inform me, "Amy, Jack bit the bullet that the one he signed didn't work, and now it's tough. Jack has been looking for me these days. Nay, I have been avoiding him. Listening to my colleagues inside the hospital, I heard that almost every day there is a person wearing black clothes at the entrance of the hospital, standing at the door, as if waiting for someone. When he didn't find me in the hospital, he went around asking where I lived. Luckily, I found out in time and went upstairs from the garage. Jack seemed to be out of his mind. In the past, when I traveled for a few months to study and rescue, he didn't even ask about it. Now it was like he was completely in love with me. I saw Jack again at the hospital. He was bearded, his face looked like he hadn't had a good rest, and he was blue under his eyes. In the past, I always felt sorry for him. But now he is a stranger to me. Lily is still hospitalized. I took the stethoscope to check for a long time, combined with the blood test report. I was about to tell Jack when he thought I had come around. Amy, you regret divorcing me, don't you? I knew you must love me. I told Tom I was adamant about the divorce. I didn't pay any attention to this snatch of his. Instead, I pointed at the unconscious Lily on the bed and said, Mr. Gu, she's pregnant. The results of over a month's worth of tests were enough to prove that the child was Jack's. Jack's face instantly changed, as if he had lost all his strength and means. Amy, you're doing everything you can to divorce me now. He still didn't believe me. I'm telling you, Amy, I'll never say yes. Why would you make up such a lie just to get back at Xiao Luo? Even going so far as to accuse me in front of the students I was taking. How can the hospital let you be a doctor when you're such a small-minded and vicious woman? Xiao Luo is so poor, why can't you be kinder? Jack danced on the tip of my heart with every word. The intern medical student tried to refute him. You're nuts. Dr. Wen is very good, otherwise the hospital wouldn't have arranged for her to come out. I interrupted in a cold voice, that's enough, Xiao Gao. Don't get into a verbal dispute with the family. I looked deeply at Jack and said in a calm tone, the responsibility of informing the family has been fulfilled. I left the country without incident. In the 5th month after I left the country, I successfully got the red divorce certificate. That little book was couriered to me by Tom. It was placed together with the marriage certificate of the same color, symbolizing my 8 years of youth. Tom spat on the phone, you don't know how difficult your ex-husband, you don't see him, he doesn't know your movements, and now every day squatting in front of my law firm, looking for me to ask for people, God, I'm just a lawyer only I was a bit amused, I didn't expect Tom to be so funny in private. However, I still want to thank you for successfully helping me get divorced. After the divorce, I finally felt that the shackles on me were much looser, and I began to concentrate on indulging myself in further studies. The years abroad were like a snap of the fingers, over in the blink of an eye. Many medical professors abroad were very kind to me, especially Professor Dale, who taught me how to study. At the moment of the end of my studies, actually spoke in not fluent Chinese to invite me, when, do you want to, stay here, with your cleverness and resourcefulness, can learn more. I was a bit tempted, but still told Professor Dale that I needed some time to think about it. Where things took a turn for the worse was when I accidentally added a little Facebook number. He topped it off with a string of letters, and right off the bat questioned me, Amy, it's been a year, and it's time to come back when you've had enough fun. Almost instantly, I guessed who this person was. It was Jack. A year's time has long since allowed me to let go of the shackles of my once 8-year marriage, and I've become cheerful. I was even in the mood to type back to him, we're divorced. He started asking me again, why did you delete my Facebook? You used to love me so much, how could you really leave me? I know you're throwing a tantrum, but it's time to get over it. It's been a year already, let's write off the things you bullied Xiao Luo in the past. Come back, let's get a new marriage license, I can still give you a grand wedding. Why don't you say anything? Question mark. Seeing no talk, he sent me so many question marks. I just threw my iPhone into the water and went to a foreign specialty store to buy a new one. What bad luck. A new iPhone helped. Years ago, when Jack and I first got married, Gu's business was booming and I was full of joy when I married him. I begged him to give me a huge wedding. After all, every girl has a wedding dream in her heart. But back then, Jack refused me without thinking. He was angry and scolded, if I have a wedding with you, Luo will definitely feel that I don't want her. A wedding is just, Amy, why are you so catty? Now I think, at that time he did not give the wedding, I should leave him decisively. Why later Zhuangzhou dream butterfly, a dream of 8 years. I sighed and stopped thinking about the past. The next day, I told Professor Dale about my idea and consulted him about medical universities abroad. I decided to continue my education and study abroad. The original hospital invited me to be the vice president, but I also refused to push back. After half a year of hard study, I got into a foreign graduate school, master's degree as I wished. It only takes 5 years. 5 years only, compared to that failed marriage, time is much faster. 5 years later, I became one of the leading experts in China. On the day I returned home, many people greeted me at the airport. I was thanked for adding to the domestic medical field, and I chose a hospital in a city to sit in. After all, a city is the city where I have lived for many years. Tom snatched me out of a pile of old white-bearded men and took me in his Bentley. The car rushed out like a wild animal. Tom was hanging on for dear life. How about 6 years? Haven't you thought about it yet, Amy? 6 years I've been sharpening the stone, and it's time for me to sharpen the shape. Tom has changed his career to business since he took over my divorce case. I once asked him why he switched to business, and he stared at me in bewilderment. Didn't you say you'd agree to marry me if I brought down Goose Company? The first 2 months after my divorce, I was particularly depressed and disillusioned. Back then, Tom accompanied me to cook, and I planted flowers and chatted. I can't believe I forgot that I even said such a sentence. At that time, he knew I had forgotten when he said it, and angrily chased me down and yelled, "Amy, you liar, you can't keep your word again." But he never mentioned it later, and I thought he had forgotten. Until now. He's sitting in the main driver's seat, punching the steering wheel and threatening me, still not saying yes? Huh? I was silent. Yes, even the hottest stone will be soft one day. I was touched by Tom after all. After being with Tom, I realized what a bad mouth he had. He told me about Jack's recent situation. Goo's business was booming, but after he divorced me, Jack didn't care about them all. He got drunk every day, and his business soon fell apart. Over the years, the Goo family has recruited a lot of people, and at the first opportunity, they come out of the woodwork. The Goo family's main business was soon eaten up, and Jack is now a rich man on the verge of bankruptcy. Tom took me to all kinds of meetings, almost to the world. He told everyone that I was his girlfriend, and I couldn't help but poke fun at him for being so old. But Tom grabbed my hand tightly and said, "I don't look like the kind of blind people who don't want pearls but fish eyes." I glanced sideways to see Jack standing in the flower room 6 years later. Under the light, he was still dressed in black. Over the years he has not shown any signs of frost, his body's temperament is getting more and more mature, and he seems to be even more attractive than back then. He stared at my hands intertwined with Tom, his eyes dark. At the cocktail party, my former friend asked me jokingly, "I heard that you used to be married to Mr. Goo. Now that we meet at the mall, how do you feel?" I said lightly, "I've never been in love at all, and I don't like to be associated with the name Goo." At the back, someone stumbled. Turning my head, I saw that Jack's face was bloodless and pale. In the middle of his eyes was a pain and remorse that I had never seen before. I hooked my lips in a smile, sort of returning the words of that year to him. Jack stood at the bottom of the apartment where I lived all night. He worked during the day and stood downstairs at night. On the third night of standing, Tom rolled up his sleeves and was ready to go down and fight him, but I hurriedly stopped him. "You used to be a lawyer, why are you so impulsive now? Hitting people is illegal." Tom cursed, who asked him to be so shameless, deride other people's girlfriends, but also openly pursued. In the end, we were able to persuade the irascible Tom. It was raining outside. I held an umbrella to meet Jack. He met me and directly begged me, "Come back, Amy. I love you all the time. I have long driven Lily away. I never touched Lily again for the last 6 years. The ones you care about, I can change. Amy, I'd die without you." A miserable bitter smile appeared on his face, and he begged me for forgiveness one after another. "Goo now, 8 years of marriage counts as me paying you back for helping my dad's business back then. 6 years abroad, I've forgotten everything with you." I ended up borrowing a quote from Tom. "I have a new life now, and a qualified ex should look like a dead man. Mr. Goo, please leave me alone." Rain rolled down Jack's face. "Amy, do you remember this wedding ring? We wore them for 8 years. In his hand, he held up the pair of wedding rings that I had thrown into the trash. I asked suspiciously, "Didn't you throw them away a long time ago? Jack, reordering the exact same ring and you want me to come back to you, dream on. Jack hurriedly explained, I didn't, Amy, I was going through the landfill for a long time, you don't know the stench, it took me a long time to find it. Amy, it represents 8 years of our relationship, you must still care, right? He reached out, trying to put that ring on my hand, but I just slapped it over. His tone condensed, Jack, we're divorced and I, for one, already have a new love. I turned around and his body came crashing down. I took a deep breath and turned to look at him. Jack, however, thought I'd come around and his face was plastered with glee. Amy, you're still worried about me, aren't you? Before the words were finished, I copied a brick from the side of the road and gave him a blow to the head. My tone of indignation, other have forgotten, only the scar on my head that old lady remember, I will definitely return to you. A brick directly to him, dry confused. My heart is completely cool, and then I got up and kicked him, you can roll. Jack's eyes were hollow, covering his head as he stumbled away. Tom gave me a thumbs up and complimented me, excellent, and you know how to hold an umbrella to avoid the cameras. Shortly afterward, the hospital where I was sitting received a female patient. Her lower body was ruptured, bleeding profusely, and she was in critical condition. The president of the hospital and the chiefs of various departments looked at me with a look of apprehension. Is there a way to save her? Lily, who was lying on the hospital bed, had a hideous face and stared at me with a face of fear. How could it be you, Amy? I don't want you to operate on me. I broke up you and Jack. You'll definitely take revenge on me. Her finger almost poked me. I avoided it and looked at the traumatized surface halfway carefully for a long time before sighing. I'm sorry, Dean, I'm not very talented, I'm afraid I can't save this one. This patient had a rupture in her lower body caused by overplaying many years ago, and later had a fetus die in her abdomen due to alcohol consumption, and has had multiple surgeries. Her body is afraid that she can't withstand the risk of a new round of surgeries. Hearing me say this, the dean and the other doctors also gave up. The one who sent her to the hospital was an extremely flamboyant male with an extremely flamboyant private life. Seeing the situation, the man cursed, this woman threw herself at me, and ended up being so brittle that she played herself to death. The man was quickly taken away by the police. I looked out the window with my eyes downcast and didn't say anything to any about what I was thinking. Actually, I can do this surgery, it's just that the failure rate is as high as 90%. It was like a big gamble. And I'm no longer willing to do anything I'm not sure of. Lily died in the hospital. It's said that after Jack took the initiative to drive her away, Lily deliberately offered herself in order to find a new gold master. But her body couldn't stand her toss. After all, it was retribution on herself. And Goo, which Jack supported, went bankrupt one day. Jack became completely destitute, the president of Goo, after living in a damp basement room for half a year. He finally could not bear the blow and went crazy. He had been holding the pair of porcelain jars tightly in his hands, muttering in his tone, "This is what my wife did with me, she loved it so much." He put the pair of porcelain jars on his face. I, however, could see clearly that the pair that was broken by him personally back then. Just specially invited the master craftsman to repair it, but the repair is as good as the first time, it is not the same thing as back then. I turned my back. Jack, if I had known this, why did I bother to do it in the first place? Once, I eat with Tom in the roadside restaurant, bumped into the beggar. He saw me, and was so frantic that he even knelt down in front of me and tugged pitifully at my pant leg. Amy, will you forgive me? Directly pushed me to the sharp corner of the closet and broke my forehead. The pain made me a little speechless. He said before I could say anything else, pointing to the pair of china jars, look, I fixed it all. Tom's grip on my hand tightened. Never mind, let him go. Send him some leftovers. Better not be dead, alive to punish him. Years later, in the late afternoon, a police car came by Tom's company building. A beggar was said to have died of starvation in an alley, and someone wondered, instead of holding a bowl, why is this beggar holding a pair of delicate porcelain jars? How strange. My footsteps paused. After standing for a long time, I turned around and walked into the company building. Throwing the thermos I had prepared in front of Tom, white porridge, love it or hate it. He was signing official business on his desk. When Tom saw me coming, he smiled all the time. He also dared to talk back proudly, I fucking love white porridge. What do you care? I almost laughed. When I looked up, I saw Tom pulling out a bunch of flowers from under the desk and stuffing them into his arms. He opened his mouth arrogantly. "Here, the return gift of white porridge, you can't refuse." I jerked my hand to hit him. "Don't think I didn't see the proposal ring hanging from those flowers, ow." "Tom, you set me up, shit hit."